If you read the video title and willingly clicked on it, then I shouldn't have to tell you that there are some serious spoilers ahead. But I'm gonna warn you anyway. If you have not fully completed the main story arc of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, then turn back now. Click away, open porn instead, or press Alt and F4 immediately. That is, of course, if you don't want the finale of the series completely fed to you by some random guy on the interwebs. If you're looking for a completely spoiler-free review, then I've got you covered. You can watch my in-depth review by clicking on the annotation that's on your screen right now, or from clicking the link in the description below. Since you've chosen to stay up to this point, I'll assume that you've completed Mission 46 of the Phantom Pain, and that you're also up to speed on the story of Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid. Let's begin by talking about Eli, otherwise known as Liquid Snake. His character in The Phantom Pain speaks volumes and foreshadows the future very well. We now understand him and his motives far better during the events of the Shadow Moses incident from Metal Gear Solid 1. But more could have been explained. For example, we see him make his escape from Mother Base with the help of Mantis. Together, they steal Metal Gear ST-84 and the English strain of the parasite virus, leaving Big Boss and Kaz standing there like, "Hey, boss, we're going after them, right?" "Why?" "What the fuck do you mean, why? They just made off with the world's deadliest mechanized war machine and a virus that threatens to wipe out the human goddamn race!" Now that you put it like that, no. Fuck that noise. "But boss!" "Look, Kaz, I'm just one man. It's not like we have a massive private army or anything." "Fair enough. Well, fuck it, I suppose." Still up for awkwardly staring at quiet later? You know it! I mean, that's how they might as well have addressed this scenario, since we don't hear from or see Eli again. This is where the missing Chapter 3 comes in, which I touched on in the previous video. The infamous Chapter 3, titled Peace, was ripped from the game. Not entirely sure why, but I have no doubt that it was due in part to some restrictions and limitations imposed on Kojima and his development team by Konami. Chapter 3 would have effectively tied up this gaping plot hole. Like I said in the previous review video, data mining fans uncovered cutscenes from the unfinished chapter in the game's installation files, and they're available to watch right here on YouTube. I've gone ahead and provided a link on screen right now and in the description below in case you're interested in watching. In the Chapter 3 deleted scenes, we see Big Boss go after Eli and the Metal Gear. All hell, of course, ensues, and eventually Eli is defeated and left to his fate. Eli is saved by Mantis and is carried away by him to God only knows where. But at least we know what's to come at this point. So this would have done very well to mend an otherwise pit-sized plot hole, had it been allowed to remain in the game. Regardless of whether Chapter 3 is in the game or not, I'll continue to think of those deleted scenes as canon in the series' lore, since it fits so well. Another thing I would have liked is far more information about how Eli managed to escape Cypher and the Les Enfants Terribles project, then became the leader of an army of child soldiers pretty much overnight. I'm sure we can imagine how he managed it, given his skill as a fighter at this point, but really it's barely touched on at all. The way that Eli is introduced kind of feels forced. Basically, it seems like he's just dropped on us out of nowhere without any real explanation or lead-in.
Your target, the White Mamba, showed up in this village out of the blue and took command of the child soldiers. The surrounding villages have been victims of their raids,
which seems very sloppy. We are given brief blurbs about his past and story in cassette recordings, but Holy hell, we're talking about Liquid fucking Snake here. One of the most iconic, if not arguably the most iconic villain in the entirety of Metal Gear Solid lore itself. I think he deserves a bit more than a brief cameo, some dismissive audio recordings, and a fucking plot hole riddled farewell. For anyone holding out hope and scouring the internet to see if Solid Snake makes an appearance in the Phantom Pain, then I'm gonna do you a big favor and end your search right now. No, Solid Snake does not make any appearance other than an Easter egg costume that you can wear as Big Boss in-game to look like the poorly rendered Metal Gear Solid 1 Solid Snake. A lot of fans were disappointed by this, but I'm not one of them. I hear you gasping in horror, but allow me to explain. It makes sense that Solid Snake isn't present during the events of the Phantom Pain, since we already have Eli, which, if you play Metal Gear Solid 1 at all, then you're well aware that Snake has no clue whatsoever that he has an identical twin brother, until the events of Shadow Moses. At this point in the timeline, he is likely being trained by agents of Cypher to eventually and unknowingly take down his dear old dad, which is pretty fucked up when you really think about it. Alright, now, it's time to drop the biggest bomb of all. The ending. People are losing their shit over the ending left and right on forums on the internet. They have a right to be upset. They're entitled to their opinion. And I'm entitled to mine. And in my personal opinion, anyone who is disappointed with the ending are morons who clearly don't understand the lore of the series. Allow me to explain. At the end of the Phantom Pain, it is revealed that we haven't been playing as the Big Boss throughout the game. We've been playing as the chopper medic from Ground Zeroes.
This is you, as you've lived until this day. I'm going to change your appearance. We have no other choice.
We have to open her now.
Through hypnotherapy, he is made to believe that he is Big Boss, when in fact, Ishmael from the hospital is the real deal. But why, I hear you ask? Why would he need a doppelganger? It's actually pretty simple, and the pieces of the puzzle are all here. The real Big Boss has gone off to start the Zanzibar Land Outer Heaven uprising under the radar, while his double draws all of the attention. The real Big Boss plans to create a nation free of Cypher and/or the Patriots' control, where he is free to stage a war against them. If you played the original Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, then you know that they never did make a ton of sense. You undergo Operation Intrude N313 and kill Big Boss. Then you infiltrate Zanzibar Land's Outer Heaven in Metal Gear 2 and you kill Big Boss again. Wait, what? See what I'm getting at here? Now we can make sense of the first two games of the entire franchise. This is also touched upon by Miller and Ocelot during the dialogue at the end of the credits of The Phantom Pain, where Miller and Ocelot establish which team they're backing. Miller chooses to reunite with Cypher, which I'll point out is actually a precursor to the Patriots. He then chooses to abandon Big Boss and his vision of a war-torn world.
So that's the way it is. 9 years ago, I thought everything had been taken from me. But now I really have lost it all. The boss, and the future we were building together.
One day, the age of Big Boss's sons will arrive. They'll likely want to settle the score with him. We have to shape that age. We'll each have roles to play. Building the foundation for a revolution led by both Big Bosses, the True One and the Phantom.
No. Big Boss can go to hell. I'll make the Phantom and his son stronger to send him there. For that, I'll keep playing my role.
And chooses to back Big Boss's double, which means eventually backing Solid Snake as well, which eventually does happen in the series. Essentially what happens is, Solid Snake is unknowingly being used as a tool of the Patriots to do their dirty work. Make no mistake that Cypher sees Big Boss and his plans as their greatest threat. But since Big Boss's double is taking the heat, Solid Snake is sent in during the events of Metal Gear 1 to eliminate him. However, it is far more likely that it was actually Big Boss himself who sent Solid Snake in to eliminate the fake Big Boss, since it's Big Boss who communicates with Snake over the radio throughout Metal Gear 1, which is extremely screwed up, but highly plausible, since Miller makes it clear in the ending dialogue with Ocelot that he is aligning with Cypher and the fake Big Boss. It's plausible to assume at this point that Big Boss viewed his double as someone that's a little too friendly with his greatest adversary and needed to be assassinated. So the whole time, during the events of Metal Gear 1, you're taking orders from the real Big Boss over the radio, who is using Solid Snake to take out his double. But then it comes back to bite him in the ass when Cypher sends Solid Snake into Zanzibar land to assassinate him. It actually makes perfect sense once you actually stop to really take it all in. Which actually also means that the fake Big Boss was being used right from the get-go to be a fall guy for whenever shit hits the fan. Big Boss uses him right from the start as someone to take the heat from Cypher, knowing full well that would mean having him assassinated at some point in the future. That's really messed up, even for a villain like Big Boss. And speaking of which, since Big Boss is fighting against Cypher and the rise of the Patriots, doesn't that make him like an unsung hero, kind of like Solidus Snake or the original boss? Pfft, not at all. I've noticed a lot of people making this point, but no, Big Boss is far from a role model. Solid Snake may be a clone of the old man, but they are polar opposites in terms of motive. Keep in mind that Cypher and Big Boss have failed miserably to interpret the boss's will after she died in Metal Gear Solid 3. Another thing to note is that Big Boss gave up on trying to figure out her will. We know this from the ending dialogue in Peace Walker when he clearly tells Kaz that he's done trying to understand what she wanted.
I'm done. Snake, you don't mean... I'm done looking for the truth.
What are you saying, Snake?
I was wrong.
Come on, boss. Everybody's waiting for you.
She betrayed me, Kaz. From now on, call me Big Boss.
Let's be clear, Big Boss never wanted the title Big Boss because of what it stood for. He earned that title by killing the person he treasured most in life. At the end of Peace Walker, Big Boss feels betrayed by the boss. He saw her giving up her life and giving up the fight and laying down her gun as a complete betrayal of everything they had done together up to that point. He then tells Kaz, from that moment forward, to address him as Big Boss, which, if you stop and think about it, is actually his version of a big middle finger held up to the boss and her legacy. It's also firmly established that Outer Heaven is not only being used to stage an assault on the Patriots, but once the Patriots are out of the picture, Big Boss plans to engulf the world in global conflict. He envisions a world where soldiers are valued above any other commodity. Throughout the entire series, it's told to us that the times are constantly changing and growing more and more peaceful, which is bad for business as Big Boss sees it. Ultimately, Big Boss's vision is realized during the events of Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots by Liquid Ocelot. And there's proxy battles and bloodshed all over the world at all times. Sounds like a wonderful world, doesn't it? Well, you can thank Big Boss for it, since Ocelot was so smitten by the legend that surrounded the Big Boss that he took up his mantle to bring Big Boss's wish to reality after his death. Big Boss had a hell of a lot of influence on all of the people that surrounded him. He manipulated them to carry out his world-ending desires well after his death. So, does he sound like some kind of hero fighting the good fight against Cypher? Not exactly what I would consider a hero, but I'm sure Satan and Big Boss would be more than happy to exchange notes. Big Boss was always someone who could not envision a world without war, whereas Solid Snake cannot envision a world without peace. This makes the moment they share together at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 that much more heart-wrenching, when Big Boss realizes the mistakes he's made and desperately bids to make amends with his son before he finally passes away for real this time. Okay, that's my take on the story and why the ending works extremely well when you connect the dots in the grand scheme of it all. So what's your take on the story and the series finale? Leave it in the comments below and let's talk about it. I can't wait to hear the other theories floating around out there. As always, take care and you rock.
We hold our rifles in missing hands. We stand tall on missing legs. We stride forward on the bones of our fallen. Then, and only then, are we alive. This pain is ours, and no one else's. The secret weapon we wield, out of sight. We will be stronger than ever, for our peace. Sahelanthropus will unleash that thirst unto the future. Those were his last words.
Cause.
Pretentious to the end.